Well, good morning. So I'm starting to work my way through Harville Hendricks and his wife Helen Kelly Hunt's book, How to Talk with Anyone About Anything. So chapter one is it's the problem. What's the problem? And I think we could all agree that in our society today, there's many instances of people divided or polarized. But the authors go on and contend that from our perspective, we see all of these conflicts and polarizations as symptoms, not the problem. These symptoms are indications that the basic human need to be seen, heard, and valued is not being met. They are a result of the failure of our social and economic systems. So in the first chapter, they sort of they want to go in and look at the problem behind the problem. And they start, of all places, with quantum physics. If quantum physics is the most accurate scientific discipline or view of nature that we as humans have developed, its thesis is that the universe is a field of energy that is self-aware and creative. All things we know and see, like galaxies, solar systems, planets, particles, atoms, cells, and all life forms, arise out of it and exist in that field. We are self-aware and creative because we are made out of this invisible, self-aware energy that constantly gives birth to forms that make up the visible world we experience. We call this the wonder of being. When we experience our connectedness to this source, we experience the wonder of being and ourselves as wondrous beings. We believe, the authors, that wonder, experienced as joyful aliveness, is our true nature. Okay? All right. Now, think about kids. Think about children when they first arrive on planet Earth. If their basic needs are being met, they tend to be pretty joyful and happy, don't they? They play with abandon naturally. That's their natural state. But, and obviously it's a big but, often as kids, for any number of reasons, those basic needs aren't met. They need to be seen, heard, and valued. And if they're not met well, then there's a disconnect between the caretakers and the child. They go on to say, when that happens, the ruptured connection triggers anxiety, which becomes the background of the child's consciousness and the source of all his or her potential problems. As anxious children grow into adults, they will continue, this is the key thing right here, I think, they will continue to live in a self-constructed world while believing it is the objective world, the world outside. They will assume that all others share their worldview, and then when they find this is not true, that in fact others have views that are different from theirs, they make every effort to convince themselves and others that their worldview is the only correct one. We call this problem objection to difference. And again, in the chapter, they explicate this more, but they conclude there are three sources of this connection, of these disconnections in our lives that cause us to withdraw and assume that those who do not conform to our expectations simply do not matter. Unconscious caretaking, a traumatic experience, mild or intense, and thirdly, the value system of our culture, a culture that rewards being the best. And then they go on to point out characteristics that they have identified in those who are disconnected and resentful of anyone whose perceptions differ from theirs. And there's a number, but anxiety obviously is one. And anxiety differs from fear. Fear typically has a specific object, a strange noise at night, a menacing dog. Anxiety, rather, is triggered by imagining that behind a specific fear lies the possibility that we might cease to exist, if we're not seen, heard, valued, etc. Anxiety. Second one, self-absorption. Now, here, think of a loss that you might have experienced. Divorce, loss of a job, loss of a friendship. If some version of that has happened, you have probably experienced degrees of anxiety ranging from mild to intense. and you may have gone through at least a brief period of withdrawal to grieve and soothe. All right? I know I lost a job, and for a while there, you just sort of shut down and try to sort things out. Third one, loss of empathy. Loss of empathy is the tragic casualty of self-absorption, that state of isolation we inhabit when we experience the anxiety of ruptured connections. And the last one is they call objectification. On a societal or national level, those who have no tolerance for different opinions or viewpoints tend to believe that their own culture, race, religion, or lifestyle is the, quote, right one. They believe that their view of the world is the only way to see it, and others with different views are worthless and evil. The others are no longer humans but objects and are treated as such. That notion of objectification. So they conclude this chapter with the observation that while we do all want to connect, and if we have a little, and they ask for a little tolerance for different opinions and viewpoints, They conclude this chapter with the observation that while we do all want to connect, if we have little tolerance for differing opinions and viewpoints, it makes that difficult. We want to connect, but if we keep putting others away, it's hard to connect. On a gentler note, they also make the point that everyone is trying to do something good from their perspective. All of us. So a little compassion and validation is in order. I like that. So then they're going to go on and explain the solution in the next chapter. The process we offer in this book is your path to improving interactions and building better relationships in your personal, professional, and community life, as well as becoming a part of global humanity. We will help you discover that the world consists only of difference and diversity, and we will demonstrate how accepting and honoring difference and diversity will open the door to greater opportunities and a happier life. So next week we'll take a look at chapter 2, the solution. Okay, I know some of this is tough sledding, but like I said, we tend to see the problems around us, and they look more at that are the symptoms. The basic underlying problem is really this objection to difference. And if you look around, everything that we see is different, and there's diversity everywhere. Okay, see you next week. Have a great week.